Chief Clerk, is there any additions to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman, no additions to the agenda.
Okay. County Council, do you read out the items for the closed session?
Yes, Chairman. There are a handful of items for today's closed session. One is our standard labor negotiations pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The county negotiators are Adrian Caleb and Ken Caves, and the employee organization is all units. Under the same Government Code section, a second labor negotiation is County Negotiator Eric Fleming, the CAO of the county, and unrepresented employees are the chiefs of staff. There's one public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and complaint pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The board will be discussing one existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D1. The litigation matter is Madera Oversight Coalition versus the County of Madera, and the case number is on the agenda. There is a conference with legal counsel for anticipated litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection paragraph 4, subdivision D. Deciding whether to initiate litigation, there's one case. There's public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title of the position is Veteran Services Officer. Public employee employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title of the position is Veteran Service Officer. And the last item is public employee employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. The title position is a Public Health Director. Thank you.
Is there any public comment on these items? If not, we'll go into closed session.
Chairman, there are no items to report from closed session at this time.
Okay. I'd be glad to. Join me in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this great day. Beautiful weather we're having, the snowpack we've had this year, the water that falls upon our great land here that causes us to be productive. And we thank you for our community. All good things come from you, Lord, and we give you praise for that. And we thank you for the friendship and the fellowship that we have with each other as community. We ask now for your wisdom in our deliberations, that all things might be done for the good of all those about us. And we thank you for the resources that you put at our disposal every day, for the contacts we have, the family we have, and we pray your protection upon each one, and especially those young men and women who are on foreign fields of battle today. We pray for their protection and for our great nation, that our flag may wave in freedom as a citadel and a beacon of hope for the world to see. We thank you for our freedom, and it's for in the name of Christ we pray these things. Amen.
Everybody salute our great flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, would you like to open and close in memory of anyone today?
Okay. A good friend of ours, Steve Lopez, passed away. He was a member of the VFW post 1981. He was in the Marine Corps, veteran, and he also fought in the Korean War. And we have a lot of friends. Some of you are here from the VFW, and he was a gentleman. He was a good man, and we're all going to miss him. We also have passed away I believe it was last Saturday. It was Stan Kohler. Stan worked with the county for over 37 years, from 1972 through 2009. And continued as an environmental health retired annuitant until his passing away last Saturday. Visitation services will be Thursday, September the 21st at 4 p.m. Funeral services will be Friday, September 22nd at 9 a.m. Additional information on the services available at the board clerk's office. Do we have board members who want to add to any comments?
Just that Stan he even came back after retired and worked with our staff to keep going. That guy was a whole book of history and knowledge of how the county works, how government works, and he always had that smile every day he came back. And it was a shocker to me when I got the notice yesterday that he had passed. So, I mean, it hadn't been, a month ago he was here and walking around with a big smile on his face, you know, saying hi to everybody, and man, he was really a smart gentleman. So, thank you.
Rhonda, you want to remind employees about our lunch?
Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that this Friday, is our annual Lunch in the Park for all city and county employees. Tickets are a whopping $3, which you can purchase at the Chief Clerk of the Board's office. We are having a lip sync battle, and we have 3 participants for that, so we're looking to a great turnout. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That is great. You are welcome.
Yeah. You know, if you want to have public comment, and then I can do this proclamation.
Okay. Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the Chief Clerk of the Board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board may state their name and county residence for the record.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Board. Good morning, Board Chairman. Ignacio Magos, 21784, Road 19 and a half, Chowchilla, California, better known as Fairmead, California. I just wanted to come by this morning. You know, I had a friend of mine a while back. We were walking along, and all of a sudden he took his clothes off, and he jumped into this cactus. And I looked at him and I said, "What'd you do that for?" And he says, "Well, it seemed like the right thing to do at the time." So today I'm here kind of doing what I feel is the right thing to do at the time. I heard you mention about Stan Kohler, and you gave me one note that I didn't have about Stan. I worked 36 years for the county. Stan worked 37. So he was here 1 year before me. Stan Kohler, throughout all those years that he and I interacted, I don't think that there was ever a moment where he looked at me in a different way. Like you mentioned this morning, it always seemed like he had this big smile, and it was like, "Good morning, Ignacio." And even in my highs or even in my lows that I went through with the county, it always seemed like it didn't matter where we were at, whether it was low, high. He was always the type of guy that when I ran into him in the government center or in the street or whatever, he always seemed to just have that big smile on his face. Very friendly person. I know I'm going to miss Stan, and I know a lot of people are. I just wanted to mention that this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah, I know the fires are 90% out now, 95% up there. The Mission Fire in North Fork and the Railroad Fire in Oakhurst. But the Cascadel people, when I talked about last meeting, the 50 people who got trapped in there were so many heroes in that day. I don't know all of them, but I just want to thank all of them who helped save those 50 lives, including our sheriffs that got in there also, and helped save all of them. We lost no lives, we lost some homes, and we could have lost a lot more, I'll tell you, if it wasn't for the people keeping their places cleaned up and stuff. So I just want to thank all the ones, and I don't want to try to name them all because there was too many that helped on that. So I just want them to know I thank every one of them, and our sheriff, and then naturally our CAL FIRE. They're the best. Thank you.
Red Fraser?
I just wanted to mention to everybody what we are doing on September 30th. We're having our intergovernmental meeting with the cities of Madera and cities of Chowchilla, trying to get on the same page with the different agencies that serve everybody here in our county and in our city. So we're trying to make it a positive thing. It's an open meeting. If anybody wants to come out and see what we're trying to work on together with the county and the cities, we invite everybody to come there. But I think it's going to be a good use of everybody's time, and exciting to get moving in a good, positive direction where we can trust each other and really work to better the area for everybody.
Very good. We have two at the dais.
I want to bring up a subject here that perhaps is not widely known, but it's getting worse and worse, folks. We're getting a lot of homeless people down in the river, a lot of them. And we've been trying to contain the problem, but it's getting worse, folks. We have gangs down in the river. They've divided themselves on the overpasses, on the streets, and they're doing terrible things down there. They even have music down there at night. And we're trying to contain that problem, but it's getting out of hand. I just want to make you all aware of the huge problem we have down in the river. Fresno has the same problem, and I think all counties do, but I just want to make you aware of that, what we're going through. Thank you.
Right.
Chairman, Board of Supervisors, Madera. This is Madera County Veteran Services Officer Leonard Williams. I just wanted to introduce a special guest, Janice Gomes. She's from the Federated Women's Republican group here in Madera. Just wanted to give her a thank you, just to let you know, and you just, Supervisor Rodriguez, you had mentioned the homeless. About 30 days ago, she made, the Women's Federated group had made homeless gifts, shampoo, shaving creams, etc., so that she could present to me at the last meeting so that I can hand out to Chowchilla District, the Madera proper and Oakhurst veteran service organizations. So I just wanted to say thank you very much, Janice, and your group for doing so much and taking so much time to do this. And then Janice had a few more words for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This was our Caring for America project for this year, and we made 168. And I want to thank, there were businesses in Madera, the hotels, and dentist's office that contributed to this besides having the 168 bags that we made. We had leftover stuff to give them extra so if they came back for the veterans, for the homeless. And in our newsletter that you have a copy of, there's an article on there where we presented it to him. And I would like to take a picture with all of you so we can put it in our next article in our newspaper. If
Thank you for doing that, too.
Thank you.
Okay. Many businesses have been part of making Madera County the fastest growing ag economy in the United States, which means the world. We also have achieved, we're number 10 in the state of California, which means the world in value production. Forbes considers us the 49th best place to do business in the United States. That's quite a distinction. We've had a lot of number ones. We are also number one in manufacturing jobs for the last 7 years in a row. It's an incredible statistic. Many businesses have contributed to that statistic. However, there's one that stands out in that group that not only contributes to Madera as a number one producer, they are the third largest nut producer in the United States, which probably means the world. They are concerned about their employees, about their community, and they put their money where their mouth is, and that is Agriland. And I'd like for the clerk to read into the record the proclamation, please.
Whereas Agriland Farming Company, an agriculture management company, was founded in 1990 by James R. Maxwell and began with about 1,800 acres. Agriland now manages more than 23,000 acres and, according to American Fruit Grower magazine, is the third largest nut grower in the United States. And whereas Agriland believes that the people who work for their company are the most important resource and are committed to serving youth, education, and safety. And whereas Agriland has a 10-person community service committee dedicated to improving the lives of those living in Madera County. This committee, on an annual basis and in conjunction with the United States Department of Labor, Cal OSHA, the EEOC, and the California Highway Patrol, sponsors training for agriculture employees to create safe work environments. And whereas for the past 8 years, Agriland employees have volunteered monthly at Valley Children's Health Care, support the hospital through donations to the Madera Alegria Guild. For 6 years have sent interns to Ghana, Africa, to teach agriculture techniques to raise dietary standards for children. Over the last 2 years have donated 1,800 hours to refurbish Madera Sunrise Rotary Sports Complex, rebuild playgrounds, paint structures, donated 700 hours in landscaping, painting, and cleaning Desmond Middle School and Nishimoto Elementary School, have donated books and donated time to read to students, as well as packed and delivered Christmas dinners to families in need. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera, State of California, does hereby commend Agriland for its commitment to serving the people of Madera County.
Like a rising tide, raising all ships, both small and great, AgriLand is an organization that Madera County can truly be proud of. Jim Maxwell, would you come forward and be recognized?
Thank you very much. We certainly, on behalf of AgriLand and many of our employees are here today, along with some of the companies that support us here in Madera. Thank you for this recognition. It's very kind of you. Most of the members of our Community Service Committee, I think, are here. And I know that they would be willing to consider and support any projects that any of you have for Madera. Probably. Maybe. If you're organizing things of value to the people of this community.
Well said.
I would encourage you to contact them, and I think they'll listen carefully to what you're proposing. We're certainly proud to be part of this community. AgriLand farms in the 7 counties of the central and southern San Joaquin Valley, but we're headquartered here. And we're proud to be here, and we're grateful for your kind recognition.
Let's get a better. Sorry I didn't see my beard for you.
Folks, at this time we'll take a 5-minute break.
Main poultry companies, and more cattle was available in the Midwest as the drought eased up there, and so that depressed the prices here. And livestock products, which is mainly, that's milk, and there was a slight modest increase in prices there, which is good because the milk producers have really taken it for the last few years, so that was encouraging. Nursery products, which in Madera County is mainly nut tree for productions, and that was up a little bit. And then vegetable crops in our county, that's mainly processed tomatoes, and again, that's a crop that's very contract dependent, so you can see the acreage come up and down depending on where the majority of the contracts are signed in the state. I just wanted to bring this to your attention that, Madera County has a presence worldwide. And these are some of the countries that we send our products to from Madera County. So Madera County does feed the world. And our crop report will be online. As soon as I get back to the office, I will contact IT, and they will get that on there. And so it's that. I did want to bring some attention to the cover this year, and I feel that goes along with Chairman Rodriguez's theme, if it's built, let's get the best deal for Madera County. This is a very innovative dairy digester, and it's on Road 9, kind of between Firebaugh and the Chowchilla area, the Burway family. And it's very innovative, forward-looking, and it's a method for improvement of air and water quality locally. And had a little blurb there inside the cover, and it's a very interesting thing. Glad to see that happening in Madera County. So any questions?
Yeah, anaerobic digester?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just had a quick question, if I can, Mr. Chairman. What those values represent are the harvested values.
That's the farm gate gross values. That's
Right.
not any added on value or
Right, no
processing
added
or anything
value,
like that.
right.
Right.
And we expect to see that go up because we have had a lot of trees put in that are immature that are
Correct.
not producing yet. So
Yeah.
that production, when that comes online, we're going to see a spike in definite values there, I believe.
Yes. And I'll draw your attention to, in the crop report, that's harvested acres.
Right.
That there's more acres out there than that. Like you said, there's some that's still coming into production. And also, too, in some crops, and fruit crops are traditional for this, if it's just not worth the harvest, they don't harvest them. So those acres are still there, but they don't show up as harvested acreage. So that affects the amount of acres, too. But you're absolutely correct. This last year, when I gave the last crop report, I was thinking about, maybe we'll have 6,000 or 7,000 more acres of almonds coming into production this year. Got closer, it was 9,000, ended up being 10,000 more in production.
Wow.
So
That's
a
amazing.
lot out there.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of people pulling grapes out, mainly Thompsons, and putting in almonds.
Right.
So,
That's such a
Poitras?
versatile product.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. It's a great report for putting this together, and I really appreciate you putting that chart in showing what the crops were from 1966, because it reminds me of, growing up here, and that's, this county, other than vineyard, well, that's what it was. It was cotton and cattle.
Right. Field crops.
Yeah, field crops. And it was a whole different landscape. And then you look and see how it's changed in 50 years, and then I couldn't help but wonder, what's it going to look like in another 50 years? And, because we've got a lot of, things happening in our county, and which are good. We have a lot of growth opportunities, but I think it just tells us, do we value agriculture? Do we see agriculture as being relevant in the future for our county? And if we do see that, I think it continues to point to the need to plan strategically, for the future in terms of, what do we want to see remain in agricultural production, and what do we want to see in open space, and having that nice mix and that nice balance with residential growth. So there's questions I think we need to answer and to consider as we move forward. And of course, Sigma is going to be a big factor, into this whole thing. I mean, what are we going to see as far as the reduction of acreage because of maybe not enough water to keep everything in production as a production? So anyway, it's just a comment about, I think, pointing to the fact that we need to, again, put out that plan, because it's going to happen. And is it something that we are going to have a voice in how it's going to happen, or is it just going to be happening to us? So anyway, thank you for the report.
Yeah.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yeah, and that's kind of to echo some of those comments. We can do all of it. We can have the new residential, we can have the new business that comes in, but we have to protect that ag link that we have, because I think it's important. I think Supervisor Rogers spoke earlier about the fact that we're number one in manufacturing jobs growth. Those manufacturing jobs are in the ag industry. Those are ag related. Those are the holding. Those are the all that. So it's not, we're not just going into industry and not. It's still linked to ag. So that's an important thing to note if we want to continue down that path and growing those jobs. Ag is no longer just the field work. There's the production of the crop after the fact, and we're placing a lot of those here, and I think that's a good thing to see. My question, I know you just said that there's a lot of conversion from Thompson into almonds, pistachios. How is the conversion from grazing land to permanent crop? Is that kind of settled down? Or?
We follow that also too, and I've worked with Norm when he was here in the past, and Jamie on, it's called FMMP, the Farmland Mapping something or other. And this is a statewide standard, and it's something that we all need to be on the same page on, so we're using the right numbers and so we're making the right comparisons. And I was reading the latest report on there. It was as of through 2016, said that in the last 2-year cycle, which would have been, they do it every 2 years, so from 14 to 16, there was approximately 4,500 acres that went into permanent crops from either not necessarily grazing land, but possibly, non-irrigated. It was farming land, but non-irrigated grazing land. So there was 4,500 acres that went into new permanent plantings.
Last year? You said
in the last 2-year period.
The last 2 years.
That's on a 2-year cycle.
From Thompson to...
No, that is not necessarily, that's different type of conversion. That's going from irrigated to irrigated.
Right.
But to actually take land that was either non-irrigated or range land, factoring all that in there, we saw about 4,500 acres.
That was this year?
No. 2-year period, 14 to 16.
Okay.
14 to 16.
And for a while, it was a lot higher.
Yes.
Right.
It has slowed down some. I am working on, I gave it to the board a couple years ago, the conversion on how many crops we have, permanent crops, how many acres, how it's gone over the years, and I'm working on that to bring another one to you to show that.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. I've got a little...
Do we have any questions from the public on this matter?
Yeah, I got one quick one. When a conversion is done in what you might call the foothills area, have you seen? I'm asking something specific because I've observed something.
Okay.
In the foothills area, specifically, when their conversion is done, the quality of the products that come out of that aren't as high, and the production isn't as high. Is that correct?
Well, I think it has to do with the microclimates there and the soil conditions and that type of thing.
And water quality maybe too?
Well, yes, and that's why everyone is down here in what we call the flatlands.
Right.
And because this is where the prime land is.
Right.
So that definitely affects it.
So I am correct, and because I've observed this, and it seems that there's a kind of a yellow leaf condition that occurs and some other things that are occurring in that region.
So a lot of those places up there, too, are smaller, and so probably on the part of that figures into it is some of the cultural care. It's kind of just like doing your own type of thing, or on the weekends, this type of thing. Where down here, it's a process, like with agri.
Right.
It's a huge process.
Ripping and all of that
getting
goes along with it.
Straight.
Right.
So things may be a little more looser there.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any questions from the audience? And now we'll continue.
Yeah, I just want to say, too, Stevie does a great job with the public relations with the community. She keeps real in touch with the growers out there, and whenever they have questions, and anybody in the ag industry, she's readily available. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we wanted to go to 7F next, Community and Economic Development Department Planning Division. Presentation from the California Farm Bureau Federation and Central Valley Farmland Trust regarding agricultural conservation easements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Treber, Planning Director. I'm here with Jamie Bax, the Senior Planner in our office. We did receive a request from the Central Valley Farmland Trust to have a presentation for the board's consideration on that. And with that, I'll go ahead and kick it over to Charlotte Mitchell with the Central Valley Farmland Trust, as well as Chris with the California Farm Bureau Federation for a presentation.
Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to come back, and joining me here is Chris. So again, I'm Charlotte Mitchell, Central Valley Farmland Trust, and joining me today is Chris Shury, Managing Counsel at the California Farm Bureau Federation. So what we wanted to attempt to do today was provide to you sort of the opportunity to understand two conservation tools, one Williamson Act and one Ag Conservation Easement. And then we hope to entertain your questions after that. So a short presentation will begin. CVFT, Central Valley Farmland Trust, is a nonprofit public benefit organization dedicated to the protection of farmland in the Central Valley. We have protected more than 13,600 acres of farmland over 4 counties, and we're the only kind of land trust that protects prime irrigated farmland in California. As you heard from your Ag Commissioner just a moment ago, your county is very much centered in agriculture. The most impressive to me is recognizing that you're the 9th largest county in California for your agricultural output, and certainly contributing to a very hardy California industry of $53 billion and 3 million jobs in the ag value chain. Ag conservation easements, the next slide there. Ag conservation easement is a legally enforceable land preservation agreement between a landowner and a qualified land protection organization for the purpose of conserving productive farmland. That would be the Central Valley Farmland Trust in this case. It ensures a landowner and a family member understands the complex and legal process to protecting their land in perpetuity. That is our job, to help explain that to somebody who comes to us wanting to protect their land. CVFT uses a selection criteria to determine if the land can sustain valuable agricultural forever. And this is a process in which is very important to us and the entire process. We look at soil, water capabilities, urban pressures, the local jurisdictions' community plans and general plans. And specific to this county, we've developed a priority plan that is a collaboration that happened a couple years ago between not only farmers but county planning entities and other community stakeholders to develop a priority plan that emphasizes if a landowner came to us and wanted to do an ag conservation easement, we would lend to this priority plan to evaluate its score. And that's based upon all the previous selection criteria that I mentioned before. The process simply begins with an interested landowner. We seek grant funding. That is the major component that we need, is something to fund an ag conservation easement. Grant funding can come in various sources. Some of them typically that we rely on is Department of Conservation and the Natural Resource Conservation Service to provide that grant opportunity to us. We apply just like any other grant applicant, and we either are accepted or rejected. At that point, if accepted in the grant opportunity, noting that Department of Conservation has a specific requirement for us to appear and obtain a county resolution of support for a project. Conversely, Natural Resource Conservation Service doesn't have that requirement. So if we were to have a grant for a specific ag conservation easement that we're working on, we may not be here in front of you with those applications. The next part of the process is the land is appraised, which determines the ag conservation value. And then the landowner is compensated for giving up or selling his development rights. Landowner has a bundle of rights. We just simply come in and compensate the landowner for giving up his development rights. The easement is recorded with the county, and the landowner's requirement continues to farm, and that's what we require of him or her. They can sell the land, pass it on to its heirs, lease it, etc. That, in short, is a very brief understanding of ag conservation easement. I will hand it over to Chris, who will explain the Williamson Act process.
Good morning, and I think I can be even briefer. I have just 2 slides. So my name is Chris Shearing, and I work for the California Farm Bureau Federation in Sacramento. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a farmer in Yolo County, and the Williamson Act is my bailiwick up in Sacramento. And I know this board knows the Williamson Act really well, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think I'm primarily here to just counterpose it to the ag conservation easement as a different type of tool and a different type of process. I don't have the benefit of maybe all the background here, but I can tell you I'm happy to be in front of you today, and Madera is one of our most important ag counties, and we appreciate this board's commitment to the Williamson Act in spite of the funding difficulties that act has had for the last few years as a matter of the state budget. Anyway, as far as the Williamson Act, you know it well. The county, you folks designate ag preserves and then execute contracts within those ag preserves. You do that by adopting your own rules for implementation of what is essentially a state statute that is administered by you. These are contracts. They are voluntary and they are term-based contracts to remain in agriculture, as you know, for a period of years, 10 or 20 in the case of the super contracts. And there's that tax incentive, which is the trade-off. The farmer promises to forego anything but an agricultural and an open space use for 10 years or 20 years, in return for which he gets an assessment, a tax break, some would call it, which is reflective of not the full market value of the property, but the agricultural use value of that property for that term. Fundamentally, it's a contract between the county and the landowner, and those contracts, as you know, automatically renew on a rolling basis unless there is a non-renewal, which can happen either at the election as totally elective, either at the election of the landowner or the county, or there's a cancellation, which is a much more difficult process. It's an immediate out of the Williamson Act. We don't like to see it happen in any but the most extraordinary circumstances. You are probably familiar with that as well. I think the Williamson Act as an orderly development statute. It's not necessarily an ag. Its goals are ag preservation, conservation, but really functionally it's an orderly development statute, and I think that's its prime goal, is to prevent leapfrog development, discontiguous development, and that sort of thing. To me, that's different than ag conservation easements. An ag conservation easement, as you know, is a permanent commitment, although a legal note that maybe you could check with county council sometime. I think actually an easement can be extinguished under real property law, so I don't know of any examples, but in theory I would think that a conservation easement could be bought back and merged with the underlying interest in the property, and it could be developable, although maybe that's a cat I don't want to let out of the bag, but I think functionally it could. But in reality, I think they at least as far as we've seen, everywhere they've been used, they have been permanent commitments to agriculture and open space use. It's essentially a private transaction. That is, it's like a lease or any other kind of easement, a utility easement or anything else. An ag conservation easement is the sale of an interest in real property. So it's fundamentally, I think, as a matter of law, a private transaction. Now, sometimes the county or the city gets involved. There's a tax assessment function. There's the recorder certainly records the deeds. And if there's funding involved, as I understand there may be for some of the easements that may be considered here, there may be a checkoff there, but it's essentially a private transaction. It's an interest in real property. I contrast that with the Williamson Act, which is a commitment for a term, not permanent. It is also a contractual right between a public entity and the landowner. It is not an interest in real property. So I think I probably talked longer than I intended to, but that's kind of my view of things. And with that, I don't know what Charlotte has in mind.
Well, we would entertain questions if there are any relative to the two programs.
I've got just a quick question. So something's in Williamson Act, it's getting the tax benefit, the county doesn't receive the full amount for the value of the real property and the ag. Now, if it goes into this permanent ag easement, is that tax incentive still there through the Williamson Act, or does that go away and the county then receives the full?
It can maintain a Williamson Act contract if one is on there currently. The tax benefit would be an agricultural zone, and I'm going to lend to Chris. I don't think there is any property tax if it was just an ag conservation easement on the land in itself. Without a Williamson Act, I don't believe there's any tax benefits.
I don't think so either, but I don't know the answer to that question. So you would have to.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah.
Oh, I think Matt,
did you have kind of my question? I was going to ask staff if, we put it in the Williamson Act, and it's just for 9 years, actually. And and so then they do sell it for conservation easement, and they do an appraisal when they do those. I've been involved with quite a few of them to the Sierra Nevada Conservancy. And they value it, whatever that number is, and it's higher than what we evaluate it. And when they sell it, doesn't that raise the taxes?
So a couple different things, Supervisor, on that, and also to try to answer Supervisor Frazier's question. In regards to the ag conservation easement program, as I understand and the research, it does not affect the valuation or the taxation of the properties like a Williamson Act does. That's not to say that a property owner could not also be within the Williamson Act program receiving that tax benefit and then put this conservation easement also on the property. So long answer is the conservation easement does not affect the taxation value of the property. Whatever, if the board or if a property is put in through the Farmland Conservation Trust into an ag conservation easement, it's taxed the same way it was the day before it went into that ag easement. I hope that answers the question.
It kind of does, but still, whatever we value that piece of land is, say, $1 million, just say. And so when they do the appraisal, when they get the money to buy that conservation unit from that rancher, and it's $1,200,000, that's the value of that land. Does the tax not go up to that? The house is that way.
Certainly, and I don't know if Charlotte maybe be able to answer that question better. I understand the question is there's an appraisal that is done by the state when they're putting these in, and if that appraisal comes back $200,000 higher than what we're currently assessing it, does that increase their tax assessment as well?
So the land is encumbered by an easement, which the value then does not have all the bundle of rights that it would have had before the easement was on there. So the valuation of that land has declined because we have purchased from the landowner that development right. So it would be valued less because the landowner could not sell it for development, a Walmart, homes, shopping center, et cetera. And so that it would be valued less in the property tax roll.
Okay. I agree with that, but what if the appraisal does come up higher?
Including the loss of the bundle of rights.
I have not witnessed in my short term of being in this position a valuation come back that is higher than the previous value.
Yeah, about 3 years ago we did one in Bakersfield, Kern County, and they determined what they thought it was worth, so we approved the conservation easement on it. And I know the ranch and everything, but when they done the appraisal, it came up so high, it actually kicked it out. So they didn't get that. They didn't get to do it. And so that's what I wonder about, because it does happen. And I know this would happen because I actually voted no on this one because I think they were using it just to enhance their other part of the ranch so they could develop around this easement and have a nice paid-for park there. But anyway, I got outvoted. But then when it came back, it was a 6-7 vote. When it came back and the appraisal was bad, then I won that one. And then the other thing is the Central Valley Farmland Trust. Is that the only? You have no cash. You just have to go out and get grants for these ranchers.
Yes, we do go out and apply for grants for the majority of our funding. The other portion of the funding can come through mitigation fees that a local jurisdiction or developer may have to pay because of mitigation requirements through the local jurisdiction. And so we do have to rely on the majority of our process, and it's a long process, let me remind you, through state and federal funding through Department of Conservation or USDA.
So that's where you're getting the grants from the USDA and
there are several opportunities, a couple different programs. Some some stay on the Department of Conservation or housed within the Department of Conservation at the state level. We can also utilize, if we feel property would be best determined and successfully win a grant under the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. So I've mentioned a couple different programs. We don't apply for all of them for one project. We would pick one
best suited for that piece of property.
Best suited for that project under the grant requirements.
And are you doing any in the foothills?
No, we do all irrigated farmland, no ranch lands or unirrigated.
Because in SB 5, the one that they passed last week for Governor to sign, if he does, there's monies in there for the forest, but I don't think there's any in there for the.
There is an opportunity for farmland protection in Senate.
Supervisor Poitras.
There was. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question: you mentioned it earlier, but what's the difference between those easements where you need to get a letter of whatever recommendation from the county and those that you don't?
So it is a grant requirement. This one specifically, Department of Conservation does require us, CVFT, to go out and get a resolution of support from the Board of Supervisors. Now, if we were to be utilizing Natural Resource Conservation Service as our grant funder, we would not.
Okay.
So again, that emphasizes the point that this, as compared to the Williamson Act, a private contract between the landowner and the entity, the organization.
Okay. So anyway, just a follow-up comment, I think that this once again points to, our need as a county to, develop some kind of strategic plan for, our future, because I don't think this is going to be the last time that we're dealing with a conservation trust. I think this is going to be before us, more than, it's going to a lot as things start to develop. So, again, I think if we had a plan as far as what we want our county to look like in the next 30 or 40 years, it would help us to deal with these situations. Thank you.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, I just want to commend our county, first of all, on the policies that have left open lands intact for a great portion of the life of this county. And we do have quite a lot of land in Williamson Act and Preserve. I believe 60% of our county is in that. And, it's my desire, I think it's important in the strategic planning, like Rob said, it's my desire, and I believe the desire of my constituents that I represent, to avoid paving over the beautiful county that we have. And I just, that would be an abhorrent thought. It's not what drew me here. And it's certainly what keeps me here, having those open spaces. When you look at property for evaluation, the use that's looked at as the highest and best use, and not all land falls within parameters for other developable status. What about ag preservation zones and the fact that the county has designated those zones as preservation zones where it's unlikely that any kind of other development will ever occur? Do you do any easements in those? Or?
So I'll lend back to the priority plan that was developed specifically for this county about 2 or 3 years ago. I'm going to look, Christina, 2 years ago. That was part of a collaborative effort to ensure that our work, obviously I don't reside in Madera County, I reside someplace else, but that our work is reflective of your thoughtful general plans and your planning efforts, and understanding that we would not put them in areas in which you anticipate, the county anticipates on developing in any time in the future, according to your general plan efforts. So I have to lend back to that. We don't do this just willy-nilly and just picking a straw of the hat. There are times where landowners come to us and say, we're interested in ag conservation easement, we'd like to put our land in it, and we'd have to tell them no for a variety of reasons that may trigger that selection criteria where it would not lend to a good planning effort. Again, our effort at Central Valley Farmland Trust is ensure that the land can be farmed forever. The next generation is going to have to make a living at it.
Right.
And the generation after that, because these are in perpetuity. We take that very seriously.
Right.
I'm a farmer, so I understand sort of that complex of it.
So if the land is, if it's highly unlikely that that land would ever be developed, I mean, on a percentage scale, that the chances of actually developing an easement in there would be not feasible.
Well, not feasible.
So that's something I was kind of getting at too. So.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not apparent that you don't live in Madera County because you speak very well. So obviously you would come from good stock like we do. But you're not from here, or I don't know. So yeah, looking forward and seeing that, it's we have to plan for these, but we also make sure that and we have to look at where the cities are growing as well. Like I said earlier, we're trying to have that meeting with everybody there, so we don't want to put something in their path of development and where they're going. And I know on the one that we're talking about, that's already been contemplated, but we always want to check in with them, because if we put it in the path of their development, then it creates that leapfrog development that is because it's literally right in their way, and then we don't have good planning. It's not. It harms the ag. It doesn't help it. How do they get their crop to market, and I appreciated looking at all of the different criteria that you require, and that there are some people that say no. It's not just yes, you can do it every time. We just want to preserve every single one, because that's not reasonable either. There's going to be some growth. We just got to keep it smart growth. So what was the other? And then what happens if the next generation chooses not to farm it, and then it just fallows, and it's right next to an urban center, and it becomes just a weed farm. Not pot. We're not getting into that. We're not getting into that discussion. But we have to contemplate those things too. Is what happens if the next generation doesn't want to farm it? What happens in that case?
So in that case, the conservation easement does go with the land. So it can be sold, it can be leased, and the requirement, it has to be farmed. It can lay fallow for a certain period of time, but it does have to be farmed. And that's why we are very studious at talking with landowners and the entire family, multi-generational family members that may be involved in this decision, to ensure it's the right one for them. So it is a concern, but I think in a speaking from an economic standpoint of the state and the manufacturing floor that the farmland does provide to the state's economy, I think working collaboratively in good land use planning, I think, is our effort with the local jurisdictions. And so we hope that we can collaborate on this effort. We know that hopefully this won't be the last one that we can discuss, ag conservation easements, because I think it's a tool that many local jurisdictions should evaluate as a good tool used properly.
Thank you. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, Charlotte, if they're in the Williamson Act and the next board of supervisors after we're gone decides they're going to drop that, which we can do, what happens to that then with that piece of property that's in a conservation easement with the Williamson Act?
It would not affect the ag conservation easement.
So that's wrote into your language that it will be protected from that.
Yes, It's independent of a Williamson Act. They are just two different tools, two different programs, and that's why we're here kind of explaining each of them. They have very distinct different roles and outcomes and processes within your structure.
Right. So then the second question is there any mechanism for them to get out of an easement? Are most of them in 99 or in a year or forever?
Forever. Ag conservation easement is in perpetuity forever. And as Chris alluded to, eminent domain can probably take an ag conservation easement, and that can be a process.
Okay, so to get it out, it's just almost impossible.
It is impossible. Next to.
Yes. I don't think there's any legal cases that would identify it to be a volatile tool that can be erased very easily.
Yeah, because Supervisor Fraser has a good point that the next generations, what are they going to do if they're not farmers, don't want to be a farmer, don't want to get up at 5 in the morning every day? So,
Madam Clerk, can you please read back what Mr. Wheeler said, that I had a good point?
See, I count them over here. Don't worry about that.
Question for you. Do you see an increase in applications for farmers that want to enter into the Williamson Act, or is it static?
In the Williamson Act, I don't know. I think that would be dependent upon your county staff to recognize that enroll of people. On an ag conservation easement, yes. Up and down the valley, yes. For a variety of different reasons.
All right.
But yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, sure. On the Williamson Act side of things, and Jamie's sitting here typing notes, we had 39 applications or parcels, which is not an unusually high number, right? So it's been fairly steady in seeing those properties come and go into the Williamson Act throughout the years.
Right.
So.
Well, I think it's important that we give some direction to staff as to how to go through this process. I think as long as we obviously have to check what our general plan, see if it fits. Do we have to meet and confer with the city if it's in their growth boundary, and then how do we proceed with it? And help people so it's quick and easy and you don't have to guess.
Yeah, absolutely. An excellent question and point, Supervisor, on that. I would say that it certainly is appropriate, and I oftentimes walk across the street and talk with our friends at the City of Madera and have conversations with our friends at the City of Chowchilla, and that certainly is an appropriate discussion to occur when these items are coming forward that are within a reasonable growth area for those entities. I would say, and I think your board's aware, that there are kind of two groups of property that are considering and have been requested for this conservation easement. And the last direction given by the board was to coordinate and try to work with the cities, which we have. We have reached out. There's been a number of communications that have occurred. There's been a number of meetings and discussions on those properties with the city. I don't want to speak certainly for the Central Valley Farmland Trust or the Farm Bureau on those and discussions they may have had. I would say we have yet to see a formal opinion rendered by the City Council on either one of those properties, but the staff discussions we have had have not been overly opposing or overly supporting either one of the properties. I think is probably the appropriate indication. So my recommendation would be to maintain that process, that when staff sees these and these come before your board, because as you heard today, not all of these will require an action by the board or a resolution in support. But those that do, there should be coordination across the aisle between our friends at the cities if they are falling certainly within the sphere of influences and within the typical growth pattern that we see with the city. These are, there's a number of general plan policies that call out for conservation of ag and continuing, right, the number one economic driver in this county. And these certainly would go towards supporting that, and staff sees that and also can see that point. So I think it would be appropriate, and I certainly would intend to continue to do the same.
And I think maybe since some of these ag easements are time sensitive, that if we take the steps to walk across the street or drive down 99, there's a notice, 14 days, 7 days, whenever they have the opportunity to comment. If they don't, then we can move forward with these so that people aren't being held up. I think is probably an important, we took the steps, and we can't just wait for forever to because that takes, it takes some of the control out of the hands of the county. So I would propose maybe that there's a time frame that they have to comment and then silence is complicity. And then, for the where we have staff time in, if it has to come in, I think before we had maybe had a discussion that we would follow the Williamson Act and how to get out of that, and if we're not getting out of the Williamson Act, or if there's not that, then it looks from the presentation that there's two separate processes, and while they kind of achieve the same ends, they're completely different. One's private, one is something that we have to do. So I think, maybe delineating that and saying we follow this process for a permanent ag easement, and then we follow this process for the Williamson Act, I think is probably the way I would want to go.
Yeah.
And Supervisor, did you want to speak?
I did. Thank you. Christina Beckstead, Executive Director at the Madera County Farm Bureau. Supervisor Frazier, thank you for bringing that up. That was part of why I have been working with Central Valley Farmland Trust and Farm Bureau to get this on the agenda, to provide this presentation and to allow you to take a look at that, because back in May, the direction was to follow Williamson Act protocol, if you will. And because this is different, Central Valley Farmland Trust does all the work for it. They do all of the documentations, they provide the resolution, they do the policing of it. So in the situation where maybe somebody decides they're not going to do anything with the land, as Supervisor Wheeler addressed, Central Valley Farmland Trust is the one that takes that up and deals with that problem. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to the board, that it is different, because when you have Williamson Act, that kind of falls on you guys, but in this instance, it falls to the Farmland Trust.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I just like to thank Supervisor Frazier for his comments. I think it makes sense to, we've got this issue and it's dragging on, and let's give the city a little bit of time to deal with it, and if we don't hear anything, we can move on. But I would hope that we would add this discussion to our special meeting that we're going to have on the 30th of this month. Because, there's already some conservation trusts that are surrounding, at least on the west side of the city, which have essentially cut back any development going west, which is probably a good thing. It's really Class 1 soils and good water opportunities there. And I think that that's something we need to consider and further when we develop our policy in regards to how we're going to grow or how we're going to work with the city in terms of future growth. The other thing to consider is, I know in the general plan and in the Vision 2025, there was a lot of talk about infill in the city, and I know that's an approach that a lot of cities are taking, Fresno and others, or they're looking inward rather than continuing a sprawl and looking to increase densities. And what happens there is you're not compromising your farmland, and you're also making public transit a lot more efficient and effective. California cities were built kind of, in a sprawl, neighborhoods, suburbs, and so forth. And because of the low densities, public transportation, even though it's being, forced down our throats, just doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. But on the East Coast, where you have those higher densities of population, we're seeing in the Bay Area more and more communities, houses are being scraped and condos are going up, and so it's increasing densities there, which again are making public transit, a lot to make more sense. But if we want to do it in this area, we're going to have to be looking at more densities, and any growth we're looking at, let's look at the soils that are more compromised in terms of the ability to grow high-value crops, such as we've seen in our ag report today. So, thank you.
If I may, Chairman, just to address a couple points, and Supervisor Poitras brings up an excellent point, right? Historically, and the common practice, and since I've been with the county in the planning division since '05, the west side of 99 has always been looked at as the prime ag area and should not be supported for any urbanization, certainly within the county. And we stuck to that policy, and that's certainly an appropriate policy and one that I would strongly support and continue to carry forward. And also to speak to Supervisor Frazier, you're correct, right? We had direction based off the Williamson Act, and you see there's a significant difference between these programs. Jamie and I have reached out throughout the state to our neighbors around to see how they are handling these types of items. And a number of them, or the ones that we have gotten feedback from, right, they follow a similar process to what we are laying out here today, which is, you coordinate and you communicate with your jurisdictions and the cities and their growth pattern. But typically, it's a resolution, and it's on consent calendar, and it's published, and it's noticed, and that's how those are handled. Fresno County handles it that way. Stanislaus County handles it that way. And I'm sure Christina and our friends over on that side there could probably speak better to them. I know Butte County also handles it in a very similar fashion, which I certainly would support. The Williamson Act, right, it's totally separate programs. I would say the ones that we have before for consideration, the majority of them are not in the Williamson Act currently. We do have some of the land that is being requested to go into this permanent ag conservation easement is currently within the Williamson Act. But certainly, before I would bring anything before this board's consideration, right, if I am recommending approval, we'll certainly make sure that it makes sense. It's not in the path of development that the county has in our Newtown area, and that it's zoned and planned accordingly. Right, that's my job as your planning director to make sure that's the case.
Is there any questions from the public on this matter? If not, we'll bring it back.
Just thumbs up is just presentation.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I thought it was a really thoughtful discussion, and I appreciate the opportunity to come down. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I ditto that as well. Thank you for having us back in here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, back to 7C. Auditor Controller Department, discussion and consideration of approval to hire Eileen Christensen at the D step for the Assistant Auditor Controller position, effective September 1, 2017.
Move to approve.
Second.
I knew that was going to happen.
Call for the vote.
You got to at least let me give her kudos.
You want?
Eileen Christensen has been with the county for 8.5 years. She started off as a supervising accountant, became my chief accountant, has been acting auditor, assistant auditor controller since February. She led the team which got the county financial statements out timely and continues to get them out timely. That is why I'm asking that she be approved at D-Step to take over as actual assistant auditor controller.
Thank you very much. Public comment? Now we'll bring it back for a motion.
Now that Todd said that, I don't know about it.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
7D, Behavioral Health Services Department. Discussion and consideration of approval to grant Maria F. Torres, Behavioral Health Services Alcohol and Drug Counselor, with additional compensation of 10% in the amount of $379.43 per month pursuant to County Code Section 2.60.310.
Move to approve.
Second. Oh,
Thank you.
hi.
Take it out to the public.
Bring it back.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll break for lunch, come back at 1:30.
Excuse me, Chairman, we do have the Tesoro Vejo scheduled at 1:15. We have our Finance Public Authority at 1:15.
We'll come back at 1:15 then.
Okay.
We've got Mr. Hudson out here. He's been faithfully. He's
we
the
cover
triangle.
item 70, it go rather quick, I think.
Yeah.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go do it. Let's do it.
Triangle T Water District, election for the formation of the Triangle T Water District, election of the district's Board of Directors. Discussion and consideration regarding the acceptance of the canvass of ballots performed by the Clerk of the Board on August 31st, 2017. Discussion and consideration of adopting the certified results of the election prepared by the Chief Clerk of the Board forming the Triangle T Water District and the election of the district's Board of Directors held on August 29th, 2017, as set forth in the statement of all votes cast and declaring that territory for the district as outlined in the LAFCO proceeding shall be formed as a California Water District under the name Triangle T Water District. Discussion and direction to the Chief Clerk of the Board to issue certificates of election to the duly elected members of the district's governing board. Discussion and direction to the Chief Clerk of the Board to submit the certified statement of results of election to the district's governing body within 28 days of election, which is September 28th, 2017. Discussion and direction to the Chief Clerk of the Board to file in the office of the Madera County Clerk Recorder a certified copy of this board's order along with a certificate listing the name of the district, the date of formation, and a description of the boundaries of the district or reference to a map showing the boundaries.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And the boundaries of the proposed Triangle T Water District have been going through the process for the creation of the Triangle T Water District. On April 18th of this year, your board called for an election for the landowner voter approval of the district, as well as the election of its board members should the district be approved, designating the Chief Clerk of the Board as the elections officer for this election. I've been working closely with and want to thank Michael Linden from the County Counsel's Office, Julia Berry with the Director of Water and Natural Resources, and Stephanie Sibley, Division of Elections, for their assistance as we navigated through the California codes. Today's request is to accept the canvass of the ballots and adopt the certified results of the election for the formation of the Triangle T Water District and the District Board of Directors. Should your board approve the first two actions, the direction is for the Chief Clerk of the Board to continue with the requirements under California codes to complete the process by September 28th. Thank you.
Okay. I will move that we approve items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Second. Tie goes to the winner.
I got it.
Tie goes to the winner.
Oh, then it's me. I guess I get the first and second then on that one.
I'm sorry. Who did the second?
Brett.
Brett was second. David was first?
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
I'm Mark Hudson. I live at 13534 Avenue 19 and a half in Chowchilla. Used to live next to Mr. Poitras, Supervisor Poitras, long ago. I'd like to give a thank you. Supervisor Wheeler, Supervisor Rodriguez, you're on those LAFCO boards, and I don't see how you come at night and stop working, but thank you. And David Braun, if you see him, thank you also. I know he put in a lot of time. And Julia, can't say enough. I mean, with farmers doing this process, it's like walking through a hallway darkly, and we appreciate the help we get. Supervisor Rogers, thank you. We're in your district, and you've always been a big help for us.
Thank you.
Just to give you what we've been doing, we haven't been waiting for this. We've been doing grower outreaches to red top growers. thank you to the Farm Bureau, they've left, but they've had us talk, and we've been able to show them what we've done as far as recharge and some of the ideas we have. Just on direct recharge this year, because it's a great year, we did over 30,000 acre-feet of recharge.
Good deal.
That's not counting the in lieu recharge, which is where you don't turn your wells on. So basically, you just about double it. We have some projects in mind that we're actively working on now. So now that we're a district, we can work a little bit faster. So as far as geography, that Red Top area, even though it's a subsidence area, has Ash Slough, Brenda Slough, Fresno River, San Joaquin River. It has everything you need to make it work. Right now we're not drilling, we're digging the pipeline for the Red Top pipeline, which connects us to the CCID, the exchange contractors. So we're going to be able to get surface water into that area for the growers, not just Triangle T, but also to the Vlots. When we can get it to the wine group, we'll get it to wine group and Soares and Brazil and all those guys. If they want to be in the district, we'll get water to them. So thank you. This is just a huge weight off of our chest, and I think you've done a long way to helping subsidence in that area of Madera County. So.
Thank you for your hard work on that, too. Yeah. Going back and forth with LAFCO, that was quite a process.
It's a new one for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but thank you.
I forgot about the LAFCO process. You can give Tom the second. He's done more work on it than I have.
I'd like to commend Triangle T and Mark and all of the everybody involved in the process. They really are a poster child, if you want to call it that, for the way it should be done. And they've done a great job. I think it's fantastic. You take a load off our chest as well. So thank you.
And if you have any crazy ideas, let us know. We're a new district. We'll do crazy.
Hey, we like crazy. He comes up with good things sometimes.
I believe
crazy
we have
good.
first and second.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Vote passes 5-0.
Congratulations.
Come back to 115.
Excellent. Really, really good.
Yeah. You live in District 1?
He does. We're gonna retry those lines again.
How you doing, Mike? Hey, man. Two of us
now. Sir, can you please keep it down?
Yeah.
We'll have you removed from these chambers.
Yeah.
Okay, at 1:15, we'll be convening as the Tesoro Vallejo Public Financing Authority. And I would like to give the administration of the oath right now. So if you would all raise your right hand. I, if you want to stand up. I state your name.
I state your name.
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
That I do?
Members of the PFA, Regina Garza, County Council, and one thing that's not on your agenda today, but that will be on your agenda at your next meeting, which will come in November, is the organization of board officers. My recommendation would be that for purposes of today's meeting, that the Madera County Board of Supervisor Chairman Rodriguez assume that responsibility, and this board can take up more formal organization of the board structure at its next meeting.
I'm good with that.
Yep. We can have that, right?
Number 1, closed session. Report by County Council on closed session items.
There are no closed session items today.
Any additions to the agenda? I was not given any additions, County Council.
No additions to the agenda.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the directors. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board may state their name and county of residence for the record. Item 4, Community and Economic Development Department Planning Division. Discussion and consideration to recommend to Tesoro Vallejo Public Financing Authority provide direction to staff to prepare and mail an infrastructure financing plan as part of the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Financing Authority Board for Tesoro Vallejo. With me is Jamie Back, Senior Planner. I also have Ahmad Al-Kayat, our Public Works Director, and Dale Bacigalupi with County Counsel's Office. So wanted to start with just a brief introduction on what has recently transpired and where we're at in this process. With that, the Board of Supervisors on August 22nd adopted a resolution of intent to form an enhanced infrastructure financing district, and they also created this body that is sitting here that we're requesting direction from today, the Public Financing Authority Board. So that occurred on August 22nd. This slide here just shows and indicates the property boundaries and the project boundaries that are encompassed within this enhanced infrastructure financing district. It does include the entirety of the development known as Tesoro Viejo and no other lands other than the Tesoro Viejo development. And a little brief slide also on what we're here today to discuss is the infrastructure financing plan. That's the next step in this process. And what's included in that, it's a very detailed document, but some of the highlights we'll have a legal description, and it'll include a description of what those public facilities and any other forms of development or financial assistance that is proposed in that area of the district. And any funding that would come from affected taxing entities would also be incorporated into that. And there'll be a detailed financing section which includes a number of different things, the maximum proportional share of financing that comes from that. Those will all be discussed in a great bit of detail within that infrastructure financing plan. Also with that, once that infrastructure financing plan, if it's the will of this authority board to direct staff to prepare that, once that is prepared, we have to provide that for a minimum of 60 days to all the property owners within that district, and any taxing entity that would be we'd be utilizing that portion of the incremental tax property value has to receive that within 60 days of any action to adopt that. Also, we have to have a public notice in 4 consecutive weeks that is published in the newspaper prior to those hearings as well. With that, I did have one just minor correction, and I apologize to Council Regina on that. I don't have a specific estimated return date that we will have this document back before this body. But probably it will not be in November. I don't anticipate that we would have this infrastructure financing plan prepared there at that point. But our recommendation at this point is that we receive the direction from your body and your direction to direct staff to prepare this infrastructure financing plan and do the necessary noticing before bringing it back to your body. So that's what we're here and our request for that today, and we're available for any questions that the board may have.
I have one question. How many property owners are involved in this one?
There is one property owner.
Any other questions from the board? And now we'll take it to the public. Any comments?
Good afternoon, board members. My name's Tom Skinner. I'm a resident here of Madera. Just one quick question. I'm just trying to keep track of this process as it evolves, which is kind of interesting, as Jim knows, is sort of replacing redevelopment agencies. But since you're preparing a financing plan for the district, are there specific projects that you are directing the Public Works Director to identify and to include in that plan? Usually we have some notion of what's going to be contained in that plan. Otherwise, what's the direction? I'm confused a little bit about that.
If I may, Chairman, it's an excellent question. The programs that would be included with this infrastructure financing plan, we don't have the specifics on that. That would be included within the plan. I would say that it has to be of a regional significance, and it has to serve that region where that's occurring, and the district boundaries of where that's occurring. So that infrastructure financing plan, like I said, it'll have ample opportunity for public notification, and those discussions are occurring as we speak, and this is really the first step in preparing that document. Will spell out exactly what would be utilized for the funding scenario on that.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah. So I think that's a great point. But if if you don't have the project listed in the infrastructure financing plan, it's not available for these funds. Am I correct? Like, it has to be spelled out with the financing plan. Is that correct?
That is correct, Supervisor. If it's not spelled out within the infrastructure financing plan that's proposed for adoption, it would not be able to be utilized, or no funds would be able to be expended as a part of this process unless it was included.
So when you bring back this infrastructure financing plan, it will have the exact infrastructure spelled out in it that we would be making that we would be voting on?
Correct, sir.
And so, as would we want to include more, or do we have to only presuppose what we think is going to be done by it, or should there be more in there?
Yeah, absolutely, and our recommendation in coordination with the county team as well, right, there's a lot of individuals that are reviewing that. Yes, we'd want to make sure that we are very thorough in everything that we put in there and that encompasses anything that could eventually or potentially be funded with this. So yes, you want to be more encompassing than less and not so narrow, because it doesn't, if it's in the infrastructure financing plan, it doesn't mandate that it has to be constructed and built from those funds and the tax increment that occurs, but it has to be in that plan in order to be done. So you're going to want to put in a number of different things, right, associated with that.
Is this a one-shot time at doing it, or is there a way to amend it after the fact?
No, there's certainly a process. We'd be back before your body to amend that infrastructure financing plan at that time, yes.
Did that answer your question?
I guess kind of. So it's kind of a wide open card for the Public Works Director to include what he thinks is appropriate for this particular district? Is that my understanding?
Yes, at this stage, we have not narrowed that down, and that will certainly be discussed publicly and notified to the public as we prepare that infrastructure financing plan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Would this be an appropriate time to make a motion to accept staff's recommendation?
We just wanted to say again.
We have taken it out to the public. We don't have any public members wanting to speak. Would be good back for action.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Yeah, first and second.
Call for the vote. Member Talbert?
Aye.
Member Frazier?
Yes.
Member Mahill?
Yes.
Member Wheeler?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
You're usually waiting for somebody else to say yes, huh, Jim?
Huh?
And are you adjourned, Chairman?
No, I think we still... Oh,
move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Then we have to reopen?
Yes.
The regular meeting.
So you've adjourned now as to Sorrow-Bayho Public Finance Authority. And now we'll convene at 1:30 as the Avenue 7 Industrial Park Public Financing Authority. And we have to swear you in, because now you sit as the board as the Avenue 7 Industrial Park Public Finance Authority.
Can we say ditto? We'll stay seated this time and break it up into individual words.
I state your name.
I, Brett Frazier,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the...
Support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I said yes.
Thank you. And the Constitution. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And that I take this obligation freely.
And that I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties.
And I will well and faithfully discharge the duties.
Upon which I'm about to enter.
Upon which I'm about to enter.
Yes.
Hello, members of the authority. Regina Garza, your county counsel. I'd like to recommend that your board take up the formal organization of the board and the members at your next meeting, which may not occur in November, and that for purposes of today's meeting, that the county board chairman act as a chairman for this meeting.
I just got deja vu.
Deja vu.
Closed session, report by county council on closed session items.
No closed session items.
Okay. And I don't have any additions to the agenda.
Neither do I.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session is set aside for members of the public to comment on any item within the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. Items presented under public comment may not be discussed or acted upon by the board at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public is invited to comment at the time the item is called for consideration by the board. Any person addressing the board under public comment will be limited to a 3-minute presentation to ensure that all interested parties have an opportunity to speak. Any handouts to the board must be submitted to the chief clerk of the board for distribution to the supervisors. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium. Also, all persons addressing the board may state their name and county residence for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will, unless the board has a different opinion, I will forego another presentation. I will pop up a map showing the boundaries of the Avenue 7 Industrial Park Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District. And this has followed the very similar path to the previous one. The board set up the resolution, adopted the resolution of intent to form, and created this body on August 22nd. And we are here requesting the direction to prepare the infrastructure financing plan and mail and notice as a part of this process. Available for any questions.
Any comment from the board? I will take it out to the public. Bring back for the board.
I move we approve item 4.
Second.
Call for the vote. Board Member Wheeler?
Yes.
Board Member Frazier?
Yes.
Board Member Talbert? Yes. Board Member Mahio?
Yes.
Board Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Just like that.
Thank you.
Needed these agreements and these annexations to be the final step, and that what qualified us for a grant rather than a loan for the whole area. Both Valentin Ranch had a compliance order, and Golden Valley Unified School Districts has a compliance order. And our MD-10A has a quantity problem, not enough capacity. With this combined effort, we will get a grant instead of a loan because of the disadvantaged status of the other two entities, and it's a win-win-win. So we are here for any questions you may have for us.
I like the win-win-win.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank staff for all their hard work on this. Especially Alvina, you've done an amazing job keeping track of this project and bringing it through. So I just really want to thank you publicly for all the hard work that you've done. They get too much credit for everything. You deserve more of the credit.
She does.
But, this is a long time coming. We've, had to go in front of the Golden Valley Unified School District Board. They approved it 5-0. Valentin Ranch has been without potable water they've had problems with their well for about 10 years now. The state has put them through hell to get to this point. And so, being able to get this over the finish line is going to be very important. We'll get a new well out of it. The Golden Valley will not be using MD-10A water for their landscaping. It's only for potable purposes. And so I just thank you all for getting it to this point, and now we just need the state to sign, and that takes another 6 months. And this has literally been going on for over 10 years. So,
thank you, Supervisor. If I may, I forgot to introduce my team here. I have our engineer, Ms. Alvina Prakash, and also our acting Public Works Special Districts Manager, Muhammad Al-Katan. So I apologize. And without them, this wouldn't have happened.
You did a lot of work, too.
We also want to thank Supervisor Frazier for all his hard work.
Thank you. Take it up.
We'll take it out to the public for any comments from the public on this matter. If not, we'll bring it back.
Move to approve. Second.
Call for the vote. Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
One at a time.
7G, Office of Information Technology. Presentation of fiscal year 2017-2018 projects approved by the Executive Information Technology Steering Committee and discussions and direction to staff on the project proposal request process.
Good afternoon. Tanya Say, CIO. Thank you very much, Chairman of the Board and board members, for having us up here this afternoon. So what we want to do today is we want to give a little overview. Like I said, thank you for taking your time to go ahead and listen to what we have going on. But what we want to take the time today to do is to look at where we have been as a department, where we're headed as a department, some of our processes, and look to see how we can better be a strategic partner with the county. There's a lot of money that's spent on IT. We have to be very transparent in how that money's being spent, and we also have to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the county and making sure that we're going in the same strategic direction that your board wants us to go and that the departments need us to go. So, we're a little off on the slides right now because something went a little haywire there with the presentation. But the
That's
first
one of the
part,
challenges.
Yeah, that's one of the challenges. Can we get that to back up? Oh, here.
Oh, IT.
Good one.
You got 5 of them sitting there, all IT experts. You ought to figure this one out.
Okay.
Oh, you help out.
So
I could really do it.
The first thing is that the Office of Information Technology, the very first point that we'd like to share is that we're all here to support the business needs. So anything that we do theoretically, any of our projects, any of our plans, our budget, anything we do should align with some sort of county objective. So this is something we've really worked with our staff on, is it's not about us just going in and putting in a piece of technology. It's really about how does that align with a business objective? How are we moving forward with the constituents' needs? How are we meeting the goals of the county? It's not just the technology. So one of the things that we need to make sure we have is clear business objectives whenever we're moving forward. So knowing the goal is important. So in my short time at IT, I've come to realize that the clearer department is with what goal they're trying to reach, the better off we're able to bridge that gap, and we're able to take the technology and we're able to help meet that business goal. So it's not about just picking a piece of technology. It's more about what is the end state goal? Where are we headed? What's the objective? To help us with this process, your board approved an IT Executive Steering Committee in November of 2015. We thank you for your support. We thank administration for their support with this committee because it's really helped us align with what we're doing with what the county needs. So, what has gone well? The Executive IT Steering Committee has helped us with the alignment. In preparation for the 2017-18 budget and fiscal year, we did a pilot program on a project prioritization process where we had departments submit their projects to the IT Executive Steering Committee. We, as a group, we went ahead and we prioritized what projects were going to move forward in fiscal year 17-18, and this allowed us to create a roadmap so that we knew where we were going in 17-18. We were able to direct staff where we were going in 17-18, and we were able to submit a budget that supported those plans. So theoretically, we were hoping that we would be basically on the same page and we'd be able to go in that direction, wherever that was, the county wanted us to go. It did result in efficiencies and cost savings because we were able to combine some projects together. And the best part for us was that we had a roadmap to move forward. Of course, everything isn't always easy. There's always challenges. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we face is that there's always going to be differing business objectives and different requirements, different needs, different desires. So what may be one page for one department may not be the same page for another department. So there's always going to be us trying to bridge what that gap is and always trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we best serve the county? The other thing that we've come across is that there's been a wide disparity of computer equipment used in the departments. So some departments have been really good at, or not even really good, some of them have just been able to replenish their computers and to keep up to date with technology, and others, maybe due to budget and their means, weren't able to do that. So one thing that we have done this year is we've taken a careful look at some of the departments that have really been bleeding. The departments where we get help desk tickets a lot just because their main computers are failing, or we go into a department and I can't even read their monitors when I'm looking over there because their monitors are so out of date. And so basically we've focused a lot on the central service departments. We're in the process of implementing a plan so that we are, with general fund departments, that we are going to start the 4-year cycle replacement process so that everybody needs to have a functioning computer to do their job, and making sure that all county departments have that. The other challenges is that the compliance requirements are increasing. I put on here, compliance is rarely the fun stuff. It's usually not the fun stuff that we do, and it's usually not the stuff that departments say, oh, yay, we're so excited about that happening. But it is a necessity, especially in government, that we meet what those requirements are. The complexity of technology is increasing. One of the things that did happen during the budget crisis is that not a lot of training. When I go back on records of the budget from prior years, there wasn't a lot of money that was spent on training. So not only has technology been increasing, the complexity of technology increasing, also we didn't really spend a lot of time during that time period investing in the training of staff, and that's, really foundational piece for our staff. One way we've been bridging that, on a side note, is you'll notice that there's been a lot of personal services contracts that are coming through. So one thing that we've been doing is we've been trying to, sometimes you have to train, sometimes you have to invest in the training. Other times there's a component that, like, for example, you want a piece of equipment configured. So we're bringing in professional services to do that. And we are having our staff learn side by side. So it's kind of like we're killing two birds with one stone. We're trying to bring in a contractor to do the work. That helps us out. But at the same time, we're having our staff train underneath the person that's coming in. So therefore, it's not just, okay, go to school and learn this. It's actually applying what you learn. It's the learn by doing. And so we think that model is going to work well for us moving forward. I don't have on this list is vendor management. Vendor management is a huge challenge with IT. The vendors will run a little bit amok sometimes if you allow that to happen. So we want to make sure that we're making sure the county needs are being met, because at the end of the day, the vendor's going to walk away. But all of us are going to be stuck with whatever we bought, and we're going to be stuck with whatever services we all signed off on. So the project overview. Based on our pilot project process, we ended up with enterprise projects, which were anything that affected departments, 3 or more departments, and then we ended up with departmental projects. And we ended up with a total of, right now we have 45 projects we're working on with our list right now, 30 of which are compliance. So like I said, that's kind of not the fun stuff. We are bringing in a total of 550 new computers. That will help make things easier. And we are also working on infrastructure upgrades I'm not going to go into too many details, but in the board letter, there were some details on some of the projects that we're working on. Some of the infrastructure upgrades, if we don't do them, they will be a showstopper. It will stop production. It will stop our ability. We will no longer be supported, and we won't be able to go move forward. Two departments in particular would not be able to function with their statewide systems come the end of the year if we didn't do these. Those are things that are done behind the scenes, and I think that this is often the reason why people wonder, well, what's IT even doing up there? Because in an ideal world, with the infrastructure projects, it would be better if nobody even knew they were going on. That would be the best thing. If we did it without anybody ever knowing that they didn't have any kind of impact of it, that would mean that we did a great job on it. The unfortunate part I know is that sometimes I think that leaves people wondering, well, where are they? What are they doing? So that's why I decided to come forward and give you guys a little overview. So this is what we've done in our department, is we've taken the projects. This is to keep us on the same page and to make sure that our staff is all on the same page, is we've tried to take the projects and we've tried to group them. So this is just a sample. We want our staff to know, all of us want our staff to know, that you have your project description, there's a business driver behind it. So this year what we kind of put them in is we said, okay, are we doing it for constituent services? Are we doing it for compliance? Are we doing it for public safety? Business continuity, facilities, why are we doing it? What's the business driver? And then we've tried to tie it to expected outcomes so that at the end of the day we'll know whether or not we met the goals of the county. The approval process is a critical piece here, which is why I brought this item today, is that there'll always be more projects probably than we're going to be able to do. So we need a way to prioritize those, which one way is the IT steering committee. The other way was the retreat. Anything that came out of the retreat and came out of the work groups from the retreat, we added that to our projects. And then also I went through the budget this year, and I've gone through each department to try and outline any projects that were approved that have an IT aspect to it. I've contacted Joel to find out, what if that does or not, and we're working with departments, so we added those things in. So that's kind of what the approval process looks like. So this is new this year, and this is where we're going to line out all of our projects. I know one of the things Eric had said to me early on was that he kind of wanted, like with facilities, he's able to get a report that just kind of shows where we're at in the projects. So this outlines all of our projects, and it shows how much time we've spent on it, where we're at, how many more months we have to go. And so I can provide this to any department heads. I can provide it to the board. I can provide it to the CAO anytime that is needed so that everybody knows, okay, this is what's going on this month. So in this month, we might be working on, 8 or 9 different projects. Here's page 2. So getting to the gist of what we're doing today. What we did last year, here's a flow chart to show what we did, is we really want to make sure that what we're working on is per the board's direction, per the steering committee's direction, and that they're funded projects. We don't want to do something that isn't funded by a department or have to stop working, because that means that we didn't work on something else maybe that needed to move forward. So we've asked for projects to be submitted to us by December 31st, 2017. And that gives us time. We take it to the steering committee. The steering committee will prioritize those projects. And then if they're approved, then IT will go back and work with the departments to come up with a budget. The budget will then be given to the department so that they could submit it the department then will submit it in their budget process. And then that will go to admin for the final approval. So that way, by the time it gets to the budget, by the time it gets to you next summer, we've already been able to map out that we've got it in our schedule, and then there's funding to do that project. It also allows IT to prepare our staff in case there's any training that we need to do, or if there's any infrastructure that we need to do or anything behind the scenes that needs to be done, we can make sure that's also included in the budget process. So as a little bit of a review, we're looking for alignment We also want to make sure that we are transparent, so that's like that sheet, being able to provide to show where we're at. We want to make sure that we're doing necessary projects that are moving the county in the direction that everybody wants, that the board wants us to go, the vision of the county, that we're meeting the constituents' needs. Project management, I've definitely learned is a partnership. IT and departments have to work together for success. I will say definitely that starts at the top. The more myself and the department head, the more we're in tune together, the more on the enterprise projects, the more Eric and I and Adrian and I, the more we're all in tune together, the more successful those projects are going to be. That's part of the relationship and working together. A technology project will have 3 pieces to it. Like I said, it's never just the technology. There'll be the technology aspect on it. There's also going to be the executive sponsorship, almost the process level, which is going to involve policy, budget, upper management support. And then you've got the piece of the users, the end users, the management staff that's going to be supervising the users and the users that are going to be using it. So you have to have all 3 of those in alignment to make those projects a success. What we did worked very well, I thought, in 17-18. At least it did from our perspective, because we were able to get the roadmap. The best part about the roadmap is now we can look. I don't want to go back a few slides, but the slide where we had the projects here. Now, if anybody ever says, "Oh no, Tanya, we need to do something else," if the board ever comes and tells Eric, "No, we need Tanya to do something else," now we can just look at this and we can adjust the schedule as need be. But now at least we know, okay, but there may be an impact. So at least we can all make decisions based on, okay, well, what gets bumped or what doesn't get bumped. So we're looking today for, you guys are making a big investment into IT. The county's making a big investment. We want to make sure we're meeting the constituents' needs. We want to make sure we're meeting the department's needs. And so we're really looking for direction from the board on whether or not we should continue, should the CIO and the Executive IT Steering Committee continue with the project proposal request process, and or do you have any other recommendations?
I think you're doing a fantastic job. I think this is a completely different approach than has been taken in IET. I mean, I saw everyone behind you nodding their head. Do you guys seem to think this is a good path forward, too? Yeah. And so that's where my trust is at. You know more about this than I'll ever know about it. And so you have at least my support, I know, and I'm sure you'll probably get a lot of echoes here.
You see some nodding behind you here. Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Brett, I'm kind of on the same page as Brett. It's like I would ask you, what's your recommendation? Because anytime a department, historically, if I'm on the city council, board supervisor, I always look for the experts to tell me what their recommendation is rather than coming to me, because frankly, I wouldn't know if it's not working and it's not, and you're asking for our advice, it's like I'd probably say maybe an approach like you're talking about. But if this is working, probably it's like, hey, this is our recommendation, it's working. Any thoughts otherwise? So if this is what you recommend, I would support this. Because far be it from me to tell you, no, I don't like this. You need to go off and everybody needs to be independent and whatever. And who wants to follow what the county wants to do? A plan? What? That doesn't make sense. So that's my 2 cents.
I very much appreciate those comments. I think something that we've learned is that, to fix something, sometimes you have to do things that you've never done before. So we've had to put a little bit more structure around the process. I do think this next year we're going to have some discussions with the committee on, there's risk in not doing projects because there's definitely things we need to get done for compliance reasons and to keep the county moving forward. We are going to need to make sure that maybe we dedicate a little bit more of our staff to help desk and operational issues, because this year we've asked our staff to totally go in a different direction and become much more project management thinking, look at things much more strategically, and we may have to take back some resources and assign them a little bit more to, a little more operational issues to make sure we're meeting the day-to-day departmental issues. But that's a discussion that we can have with the steering committee and see where, you find that balance, because I don't want to shift too much on the other side. But I do appreciate your comments, and overall I do think this is a good process. I just wanted to make sure that this was in the direction that the board wanted IT to go, because like I said, I know we're asking, it's a lot of money. We've got a lot of money on the table, and we want to make sure that's meeting the needs of the constituents. We want the constituents to be able to be well taken care of. We want to make sure we're meeting their needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah. IT is an environment that is rapidly always changing. It's continually on the shake-up, and security has become a huge issue in the industry overall. It's an absolutely critical area of protecting what we do and prohibit outside interference. There's continual phishing that goes on. There's continual efforts to obtain information, and from my understanding, the efforts are directed toward more local interests in order to obtain the interest of the federal government. On that level, they find their way into local spots to get to big guy over here. So that's a very interesting approach. And but as others have said, with all the changing environment, all the technical aspects of this, and the great need that we have to stay on top of IT, its growth, it's really critical, because we get more work done with IT than without it in every department. For a fact, we've seen a reduction in personnel since previous to since the last downturn in the economy. Our personnel significantly decreased, and the only reason we're able to keep up with what the demand has been is IT is filling that gap with a lot of ability, and I think it's really incumbent on us to stay up with that. But that expertise lies with you and not with me, as has already been said. It's really important that you tell us your best. We want to hear your best, and if that's what you're telling me, then that's what I'll go with.
Thank you for that very much. I think our biggest thing is that, you know what? Contrary to popular belief, IT does not ever want to say no. We want to help. What did you say? We want to help more than anything. There's not a help desk ticket that comes through. There's not a project that comes through that we say, oh, that doesn't sound like very much fun. We're not going to do it. That's not it. We want more than anything to be able to accomplish everything anybody wants us to do.
Yeah.
But I think with the project process, approval process, it makes us so that we're able to focus, because when you have things coming at you from all different angles, then the focus doesn't occur. And so I think that it's just making sure that all of us are focused in the direction that we're going, and that we're headed in the right direction.
Well, I think even from my own personal experience, I make a lot of calls to IT, and my chief of staff does. And Mike always takes care of me quite a bit. He's been a great resource for me.
You drew the short straw, Mike? Is that
I'm more productive because of him. I mean, that's a fact. I get, when I'm hamstrung and I don't have my devices that are functioning and syncing like they need to with the county, I'm hamstrung. I'm literally, and she's calling me, well, what's going on? You're not getting my messages. And I'm getting, and when I get back online, I have 500 emails and et cetera. It's just really important that I stay connected, and you guys have helped do that. Thank you.
I want to hear the guy with the beard speak.
Bruce Lorimer, Deputy CIO.
What would you like me to say, Max?
But you know what? The better you guys do the job, the better we do ours. It all starts with you guys, and you guys make our job if it's working good, we do a better job. The information is there for us to utilize. So what can I say? We have a lot of faith in you guys, and go for it. Supervisor Frazier?
Yeah, I think the policy decision that's actually here before us today is, do we want them to go forward with it? I think we absolutely do. The policy decision is, as an organization, do we want to give IT the tools that they need to keep the tools in the hands of everybody else in our organization running and in good order? It's a lot of money. This isn't just a one-time. I think we have to understand that as a board, that this isn't a one-time investment, that this is like an ongoing investment that continues to go. Just buying 550 computers doesn't solve it. As soon as those get in, they're almost obsolete. We're ready to start turning those over. So it's a long-term process. What I think now, seeing how the process is within your department, it's easy as a board member to make that investment because we can see there's a matrix. We understand where it's going, how it's going. It's not just throwing money down a hole and you're just fixing, putting out fires. Now it's a long-term solution to a problem that will continue to be a long-term issue. So I don't know if we need to make a motion or if there's just direction to staff.
Let's take it out to the public.
Yeah. I'll make the motion.
Any comment from the public on this matter? And now we'll bring it back with the board for our decision.
One more thing, in conjunction with that, if you can, think like the board would, and think outside of the box in terms of, what's the best bang for our buck here? That's how we always think. How can we get the best for our money here? Because we're dealing with the public's money. I think of it as, I look at it like I'm dealing with my money. I don't just throw it away because it's hard to earn. And they feel the same way. So when you think like that, you can't go wrong. And think outside the box. I don't need a computer at my desk. If you can find a way to get rid of that, I operate on this. This is what I use now for everything. So I don't need a computer at my desk. If I can save the county money in that respect, if there's another employee that can do that, let's find a way to do it. However it can work best, and that's what we're saying. The conventional, out the window. You guys are the experts. You find a way to make it work for us.
Computers are conventional. Just get Abacus.
Move forward with item 7G.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
Thank you, and we did mention Bruce, Deputy CIO. We had Mike is our customer service manager, but I had not mentioned Brian Rohde. He's our infrastructure support manager. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think I talked to you the other day on the phone, didn't I? Thank you for your help.
He said, this is how you turn it on.
Circle it. Push it.
Got a little round thing in the bottom. Just hit that.
I am very technically savvy, my friend.
Number 8, pending legislation. Discuss, support, or oppose legislation presented by supervisors and/or staff. On your dais, gentlemen, is proposed legislation, a letter to the California Water Commission.
Good afternoon, Glenna.
Hello. Glenna Jarvis, District 2 Chief of Staff. I'm here to ask for a letter of support today for the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority's application for state bond funding, and this is the Prop 1 water bond under the State of California Water Storage Investment Program to build Temperance Flat Dam. Temperance Flat, if built or when built, my boss has been really working hard on this, so it will add about 1.3 million acre-feet of additional water storage capacity. And if you have any questions, David can probably answer them better than I can.
You guys heard the
Thumbs
weather
up.
before.
Thumbs up.
I have a comment to make. I support this project, but I also have another.
High-speed rail?
But I feel that we need to slow down and consider whether we have a dog in this fight. It's a pay-to-play scenario as opposed to actual needs. The water from the local dams is currently diverted to the southern part of the valley. We need to find our share, get our share, and ensure that the water is distributed fairly. And that is very important because we screwed up with Bryan Dam years ago. And I think we can all agree. So we should make sure that we're protected.
Right. I agree with that, Max. And I would say that the extra 500,000 acre feet per year that will be gleaned from the project from Temperance Flat will be beneficial to the entire region. That's why recently CWD, my local water district, has opted to resit on the Friant board, and there are others many players in our region who have come to the table, including the Friant operators, and they're actually sitting on that board now. So it's a big, important issue for us, and any water that enters our region will mean water recharged into the ground. If it's used for farming, it means water recharged into the ground. If it's watering lawns, it's water recharged in the ground. So it doesn't matter if it goes to a disadvantaged community, one of the local communities farming, or any of those operations. As long as it stays in our local area, I think that's very important. And we made it very clear that we don't want to see any of it crossing the mountains over there for Metro. And the only way that would happen is in an emergency situation, and that's about it.
They're always in the
Yeah. Anyway, I thank you for your support. Thumbs up?
Yep.
Number 9, supervisors and staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple weeks ago, I attended the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council trip to D.C. It involves 8 counties from Kern County to San Joaquin County, and many of us have been on that trip, and I think it was, people say, oh, did you do any good? Did you bring some money back? Were you successful? Well, it's not like that. It's more about, being in front of the congressmen, the senators who will meet with you, plus the departments, and just let them know who we are and that we're there, and that we have not only significant needs, but we play a vital role in our nation in terms of food supply and jobs and keeping things moving. So from that perspective, I think it was very successful, and it was without incident. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Wheeler. Good. Good. Very good. I'm good. Good. Good.
No report, Chairman.
Okay.
County Council, will you be returning to closed session?
Yes. Back to closed session, gentlemen.
Great.
There are no reportable actions from closed session.
Ain't got nobody tell me.